Shocking! This grandma's life turns upside down when her stepson gives an unthinkable order. Eleanor sat in her small, sunlit kitchen, staring out at the laughter of children playing in the crisp autumn air. The sun cast a warm glow, but it did little to chase away the chill inside her hollow chest. Her home, once vibrant with family gatherings, had succumbed to silence, the walls heavy with memories. Sipping her lukewarm tea, she felt a tightness in her throat, the weight of loneliness hovering in the air like fog. Then came the knock. It wasn't a friendly tap. It was forceful, demanding. Eleanor's heart raced. After years of estrangement, her stepson, Jacob, was on the other side of that door. He had always been the wild one, full of dreams that somehow turned dark. She opened the door slowly, her palms damp. Jacob stood there, his face pale, eyes shadowed. He stepped inside, and the familiar scent of cheap cologne mixed with a hint of fear flooded the room. "Mom," he said, but it was more of a warning than a greeting. "What's wrong?" Eleanor's voice shook, the lump returning to her throat. Jacob moved closer, lowering his voice. "I need your help." He paused. "I need your help." He paused. Jacob stood there, his face pale, eyes shadowed. He stepped inside, and the familiar scent of cheap cologne, mixed with a hint of fear, flooded the room. Jacob stood there. He paused, and again the familiar scent of cheap cologne, mixed with a hint of fear, flooded the room. He paused. "I need your help." He paused, glancing around, as if the walls had ears. That unease stirred the air, a tangible tension mixed with a familiar dread. She felt it coils inside, twisting around her heart. "What do you mean?" Something happened, something bad. His hands trembled as he fished out an envelope. "Down, we all go down. You have to choose." Eleanor felt her heart race, fear mixing with a flicker of defiance. This wasn't the child she had hoped for. This was a man wrapped in shadows and secrets, pushing them all closer to a precipice. The laughter outside felt like a cruel contrast, a reminder of innocence lost. "What if I refuse?" she asked, her voice trembling as she took a step back. "I don't think you want to find out," he replied, cold and harsh. As Eleanor stood there, grappling with the weight of his words, her pulse thrummed loudly in her ears. Was loyalty worth the cost of her soul? Just when she thought the air felt heavy enough to suffocate her, another knock at the door echoed, a sharp, demanding sound that shattered the momentary silence. "Who else is there?" she wondered aloud, her heart pounding as another wave of dread washed over her. Eleanor braced herself, caught between fear and the desperate hope for a salvation that felt impossibly far away. "Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Eleanor's heart raced, thumping in her ears like the relentless hammering at the door. Her chest tightened. She glanced at Jacob, whose eyes flickered with a wild mix of fear and desperation. The sunlight streaming through the window felt too bright, too innocent for the dark unfolding before her. Another knock echoed, louder this time. Eleanor took a tentative step back. "Who is it?" she called out, but her voice was shaky, thin like glass. "Eleanor!" A voice she didn't expect cut through the tension. It was Helen, her best friend. From across the street. "Open up! It's urgent!" "Eleanor, please!" Jacob hissed, glancing nervously from the door to her. The desperation in his voice twisted her stomach further. But then, another thought crossed her mind. What if the chaos behind the door was worse? With trembling hands, she unlocked the door and flung it open. Helen stood there, her face pallid, eyes wide with panic. "You have to come with me," she blurted out, barely catching her breath. "It's about Jacob. There's something you need to know." Eleanor swayed, confusion flooding her mind. "What are you talking about?" "Just come, now," Helen insisted, grasping her wrist, pulling her out into the cool air. Jacob was right behind them, irritation flashing across his face. "What do you mean? What's happening?" The questions poured from him like a storm, but Helen only shook her head, urgency tethering her words. They hurried down the driveway, and Eleanor's heart raced, not just from fear, but from a gut feeling that something was deeply wrong. Helen led them to her car parked right outside, the engine idling, a strange urgency crackling in the air. Once inside, Helen turned back to them, her voice grave. "You don't know the whole story, do you, Jacob? About why you're in trouble." "What do you mean?" Jacob shot back, defiance in his tone. But underneath, Eleanor saw the flicker of doubt. "Just tell him," Eleanor urged, the sick feeling in her stomach amplifying. "What's going on?" Helen took a deep breath. "I saw something that changes everything. The reason those pictures are out there, it's bigger than you know." "I don't care about your theatrics, Helen," Jacob snapped, but Eleanor caught a glint of fear in his eyes. "What did you see?" Eleanor pressed, her throat dry. "Your son. He's mixed up in something dangerous. I saw him in a meeting, an exchange with people who—" Helen took a shaky breath, her voice dropping to a whisper. "They're not who they seem, Jacob. They're involved in money laundering. You're the one they want." Silence swallowed the car. Eleanor's heart sank, a weight of betrayal crashing down. Was Jacob really capable of this? "I didn't do anything." Jacob's voice cracked. "I swear, I tried to." "Walk away. How could you let it get this far?" Eleanor whispered, tears stinging her eyes. This wasn't the boy she remembered. Helen continued. "They know about you, Eleanor. They're watching. If you don't do what they say, they'll come for you both." "What does that mean?" Jacob's voice trembled now, losing its edge. "Your mother can't be a part of this," Helen declared, her gaze fierce. "But if you don't tell her everything, you'll never have a chance to fix this. It's about power and betrayal, more than what any of us expected." A jolt hit Eleanor. Suddenly, everything felt like a fragile house of cards teetering on the edge. She turned to Jacob, searching for answers in his eyes. At that moment, something shifted between them. Was he truly lost, or was he hiding something darker? The world outside blurred. Eleanor's hands clenched in her lap, trembling as the truth began to settle like thick fog around them. Was her family worth saving, or was it already too late? "Mom," Jacob's voice tremored, breaking through her thoughts. "Please, I wasn't going to drag you into this." Before he could finish, a shadow suddenly loomed outside, dark and menacing. Eleanor's breath caught. They were running out of time. Who were they really protecting? What lay ahead? In that moment, everything hung in the balance, questions swirling like leaves in the wind. and they all knew the worst was yet to come. Eleanor's breath snagged in her throat. The shadow outside drew closer, looming over the car like a storm cloud, heavy and suffocating. She glanced at Jacob, who shifted uneasily in his seat, his earlier bravado crumbling under the weight of Helen's revelation. Who is it?" Jacob's voice quivered, a mix of anger and fear racing through him. Eleanor felt panic rising. "We have to go," she urged. But Helen's hand tightened on her wrist, grounding her in that moment. But before they could react, a loud bang echoed through the air, harsh and jarring. It sounded like gunfire, slicing through the stillness outside. Eleanor's heart raced. Everything inside her screamed to flee. But she was paralyzed. Jacob's eyes widened, a flash of realization crossing his face. "They found me," he shouted, his voice raw with terror. In an instant, the boy she once knew vanished, replaced by a scared man grappling with a reality he never wanted to face. "Get down!" Helen yelled, and instinctively they all ducked in the cramped car. The world outside shattered. Screams erupted, and harsh voices barked orders. Eleanor's heart pounded as she peered through the tiny window, the commotion outside turning chaotic. Shadows darted. Figures moved with purpose, brandishing weapons that glinted menacingly in the sunlight. The laughter of children was replaced by fear. "Just drive! Go!" Jacob urged, wild-eyed, staring at Helen. But her gaze was elsewhere, fixated on a figure emerging from the chaos. Eleanor's stomach lurched. A man stepped out, tall and confident, weaving through the crowd with an air of authority. He was someone she had never seen before. But there was something disturbingly familiar about him, something that sent chills racing down her spine. "Who is that?" she whispered, straining to see past the commotion. It's Victor," Jacob breathed, his voice hollow. "No, he can't be here." Eleanor's heart dropped. "Victor?" The name was a ghost from the past, haunting her mind. He was Jacob's estranged father, the man who had left them years ago, shrouded in shadows and rumors. "What the hell is he doing here?" Jacob's voice shook with betrayal, and Eleanor felt the air grow heavier. Victor approached the car, his expression unyielding, eyes burning with a calculated fury. Eleanor felt a new wave of dread wash over her. This was no ordinary visit. This was a reckoning. "Jacob!" Victor's voice cut through the chaos, sharp as glass. "You need to come with me, now." Jacob's body tensed. "No, I'm not going anywhere with you." The weight of that moment hung thick in the air. The realization dawned on Eleanor. This wasn't just about Jacob's trouble. It was about a pattern, a legacy of darkness that stretched back through the years, one that she had never wanted to confront. "Mom, he's lying. He was never there for me." Jacob's voice cracked, a desperate plea wrapped in raw emotion. Victor leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "You thought you could hide from this, but the past has a way of catching up. Your identity is not just yours, it's mine as well." Eleanor's mind raced. What was he saying? What could he possibly mean? "Jacob, what does he mean?" But before either of them could process it, Helen suddenly gasped, her fingers gripping her phone, her face pale. "Eleanor, it's worse than I thought. You really need to see this." The urgency in her voice cut through the tension, pulling Eleanor back into reality. "What do you mean?" Helen's hands shook as she turned the screen toward them. Images flickered, more pictures than before, grotesque and sinister. But what made Eleanor's world tilt was a familiar face, someone she never thought she'd see entwined in this nightmare. "Mom, you know her. It's Lisa." Helen's voice was strained, and all thought fell away from Eleanor's mind. Lisa, her sister, long gone, believed to be living a life far away. How on earth was she mixed up in this? What relationship had Jacob forged? What was Victor about to unleash? Eleanor's world twisted again, repainted with profound uncertainty. How deep did this rabbit hole go? Was she really ready to confront the monster that had been lurking in their lives all along? As Eleanor's heart thudded in her chest, the shadows outside drew closer. And just like that, everything changed. So many secrets spiraled around, threatening to explode in one devastating moment. Would they escape this dark web? Could they face the truth together? Or was the family bound to split forever? Eleanor's heart raced in her chest as she took in the chaotic scene outside. Victor's looming figure darkened the bright sunlight that had once filled the car with warmth. Fear wrapped around her like a vice, tightening with every passing second. "What are you doing here?" Jacob shouted, venom lacing his words. Eleanor could see the storm brewing in his eyes, but the terror in his voice betrayed him. "Enough games, Jacob," Victor barked, stepping closer. "You're not getting out of this." Eleanor's mind whirled. She needed to act, to protect her son. "Get away from him!" she yelled, shaking with a mix of fear and fury. Helen's eyes darted between the two, panic-stricken. "Eleanor, we need to go now," she urged, her voice desperate. But before Eleanor could collect her thoughts, a deafening sound shattered the air. A loud explosion erupted from the street, sending shockwaves through the car. The windows rattled violently, and Eleanor braced herself against the seat, heart racing wildly. Helen screamed, "What was that?" Eleanor glimpsed chaos erupting outside, people running, shouting. Smoke filled the air, twisting and coiling like a living thing. "Oh my God," she gasped, eyes wide with horror. "Stay low," Jacob shouted, instinctively ducking down, but Eleanor couldn't look away from the scene outside. Then another sound rang out, sharp and bright. Gunfire. The crack of shots echoed in the morning stillness, punctuated by terrified screams. A woman stumbled into view, clutching her chest, eyes wide with fear. "Get back!" Victor yelled, raising his hands as if trying to calm an invisible storm. But his facade was cracking. The chaos was unraveling him. And he looked terrified too. "What's happening?" Jacob's voice trembled, fear watching over him. "We need to get out!" Suddenly, Eleanor caught sight of something green flicking through the smoke. A familiar shape, a jacket she recognized instantly. "Lisa!" she shouted, her heart plummeting. It couldn't be. The sister she thought was lost was stepping into the chaos, moving toward Victor. "What? No!" Jacob gasped as he turned to stare at her, eyes wide, disbelief etched in every line of his face. "Mom, who the hell is that?" he demanded, voice rising. Eleanor barely heard him. She was lost in the unraveling truth. "Lisa, get back!" she called out, desperation threading through her voice. But Lisa didn't stop. She reached Victor, their eyes locking in a moment that felt otherworldly, twisted. "It's time," she said, her voice reaching Eleanor's ears like a whisper through a fading storm. As Eleanor processed the scene, her world tilted dangerously. What did that mean? Before she could grasp it fully, Another explosion rocked the street, sending debris scattering like broken dreams. "Mom!" Jacob yelled, gripping her arm tightly. "We have to go!" But Eleanor was already moving, her instincts driving her toward the truth. "Lisa, what are you doing?" she cried, stepping out of the car. And then she saw it, hidden behind Lisa's leg was a child, no older than 5, lanky and wide-eyed. The child was dirty, terrified, clinging to Lisa like a lifeline. "Mommy," the child whined, voice cracking. Eleanor's breath hitched, an invisible dagger slicing through her heart. Who is that?" she whispered, struggling to comprehend the world crashing around her. Lisa turned, eyes narrowing. "That's your grandson," she said coldly, "and he needs us." Eleanor felt the ground shift beneath her feet. She had a grandson? In that moment, every assumption, every bond she thought she understood broke apart like glass. It shattered the night she thought she'd buried deep, her family tangled in webs of deceit and despair. Everything she'd believed was up in the air, floating like smoke. Dear God. The weight of that revelation crushed into her, leaving her breathless. "Where've you been?" she demanded, anger flaring, but laced with confusion. But Lisa just shook her head, urgency flashing in her eyes. "No time for explanations. We have to go before they find us. They will come for him." Eleanor glanced back at Jacob, who still wore a mask of disbelief, and Helen, whose face held deep concern. The world outside was unraveling, and inside, her heart begged for answers. What darkness had her family been hiding? As sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer, Eleanor took a step toward Lisa and the child. The pieces were falling together. But what picture would emerge? What other secrets lingered beneath the surface, waiting to erupt like the chaos unfolding outside? The questions hung thick in the air, pressing down on her. Was she ready to uncover the truth, whatever it might cost? Eleanor's heart raced in her chest as she took in the chaotic scene outside. Victor's looming figure darkened the bright sunlight that had once filled the car with warmth. Fear wrapped around her like a vice, tightening with every passing second. "What are you doing here?" Jacob shouted, venom lacing his words. Eleanor could see the storm brewing in his eyes, but the terror in his voice betrayed him. "Enough games, Jacob," Victor bunked, stepping closer. "You're not getting out of this." Eleanor's mind whirled. She needed to act, to protect her son. "Away from him!" she yelled, shaking with a mix of fear and fury. Helen's eyes darted between the two, panic-stricken. "Eleanor, we need to go, now!" she urged, her voice desperate. But before Eleanor could collect her thoughts, a deafening sound shattered the air. A loud explosion erupted from the street, sending shockwaves through the car. The windows rattled violently, and Eleanor braced herself against the seat, heart racing wildly. Helen screamed, "What was that?" Eleanor glimpsed chaos erupting outside. People running, shouting. Smoke filled the air, twisting and coiling like a living thing. "Oh my God!" she gasped, eyes wide with horror. "It down!" Jacob shouted, instinctively ducking low. But Eleanor couldn't look away from the scene outside. Then another sound rang out, sharp and bright. Gunfire! The crack of shots echoed in the morning stillness, punctuated by terrified screams. A woman stumbled into view, clutching her chest, eyes wide with fear. "Get back!" Victor yelled, raising his hands as if trying to calm an invisible storm. But his facade was cracking. The chaos was unraveling him, and he looked terrified too. "What's happening?" Jacob's voice trembled, fear washing over him. "We need to get out!" Suddenly, Eleanor caught sight of something green flicking through the smoke. A familiar shape, a jacket she recognized instantly. "Lisa!" she shouted, heart pounding. It couldn't be. The sister she thought was lost was stepping into the chaos, moving toward Victor. "What? No!" Jacob gasped, turning. To stare at her, disbelief etched on his face. "Mom, who the hell is that?" he demanded. Eleanor barely heard him. She was lost in the unraveling truth. "Lisa, get back!" she called out, desperation threading through her voice. But Lisa didn't stop. She reached Victor, their eyes locking in a moment that felt otherworldly, twisted. "It's time," she said, her voice reaching Eleanor's ears like a whisper through a fading storm. At that moment, a flash of light erupted from Victor's hand. A small device, a detonator. Eleanor's heart lurched. The pieces were falling together in a horrific way she had never imagined. "Get down!" Eleanor screamed, but it was too late. The ground shook, a terrifying rumble under them. A massive explosion ripped through the street, and flames burst upward, transforming the scene into a hellscape. Debris rained down like deadly confetti, the shockwaves slamming into the car, knocking it sideways. Eleanor felt weightless for a heartbeat, her body thrown against the side as the surroundings splintered into chaos. "Jacob!" she cried, searching for her son as the world blurred around her. Then a figure stumbled from the smoke, another man, wild-eyed and frantic. He grabbed Jacob, pulling him out of the car just as another blast occurred. Eleanor's heart raced. Who was this person? "Get to safety!" the man shouted, dragging Jacob along. But Eleanor wasn't focused on escaping. She wanted answers. "Wait!" she shouted, her voice lost in the noise. Then, with a sudden crush of certainty, the truth hit her like a freight train. The man wasn't a stranger. He was one of Victor's associates. "Jacob!" she yelled, panic choking her words. "Get away from him!" But the man turned, and in that fleeting moment, Eleanor recognized him. Lucy! It was her long-lost sister, a face she thought she'd never see again. But there was something darker about her now, something sinister etched in her features. "Mom!" a voice shouted, pulling Eleanor from her shock. "We need to move!" As the chaos surged, Eleanor's memories tangled. Family ties lost to shadows, long-buried secrets resurfacing. Just when she thought she understood, another layer peeled back, revealing a darkness she'd never known. "Where is Lisa?" Eleanor called desperately, but there was no response from the swirling debris. As the smoke began to clear, she spotted Lisa standing near Victor, an eerie calm enveloping her. She met Eleanor's gaze, and in that moment, Eleanor understood. Lisa wasn't just tied to Victor. She was part of something much bigger, a sinister plot that wove through their lives like a poisonous thread. And as Eleanor grasped the enormity of it all, a chilling silence fell over the street. All eyes turned toward Victor and Lisa. Ready for what came next, Eleanor's hand trembled, her heart pounding out a frantic rhythm. What had she stumbled into? What lay ahead as the shadows of her family deepened? Uncertainty clouded her mind like the billowing smoke. Everything had changed. But how much more would it shift as the truth revealed itself? Eleanor's heart pounded as the tension crackled in the air. The scene was surreal. Victor and Lisa stood amidst the chaos, locked in a gaze that spoke volumes. Everything felt wrong, and the heaviness of the moment pressed down like a storm cloud. "Eleanor!" Victor shouted, breaking the silence. "You have to understand, this is about power, our power." He gestured angrily, flames dancing in the background, casting shadows on his face that made him look more monstrous than human. Eleanor's breath hitched. "What power? What are you talking about?" Confusion twisted in her chest, adding to the dread that hung thick in the air. Suddenly, Lisa stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "It's time you knew the truth, Eleanor," she said, her voice steady. "You're not the woman you think you are. None of us are." "What do you mean?" Eleanor's voice shook as she gripped the car door. "What are you saying?" Before Lisa could respond, the sound of sirens pierced through the chaos. Red and blue lights flashed, illuminating their faces with an eerie glow. The moment felt frozen, like time itself had paused to witness this unraveling truth. But then, everything changed. A loud crack echoed like thunder, and from somewhere deep within the smoke, a figure emerged. A man, tall and menacing, dressed in a black suit. He moved through the haze like a specter. "Eleanor," he said, voice smooth yet chilling. "It's been a long time." Eleanor's knees nearly buckled. "No, it can't be." Her heart dropped as she recognized him. It was David, her first love, the man who had disappeared from her life without a trace. The memories flooded back. Laughter, stolen kisses, and the secret they had shared, which had torn them apart. "Why are you here?" Eleanor whispered, the shock washing over her, drowning her in disbelief. You shouldn't be here." "I'm here because of you, Eleanor, because of what you are." David's eyes glinted with a strange intensity. "And what you've always been." The world shifted beneath her, spinning as Eleanor tried to comprehend what was happening. "What do you mean?" she asked, clinging to the door for support. Was it possible that he knew? Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Jacob, his expression torn between disbelief and confusion. "Mom, who is he?" he demanded, voice rising against the backdrop of gunfire and panic. "What are you hiding?" The truth felt like a tide ready to swallow her whole. "He was—" Eleanor started, but before she could finish, Lisa cut her off. "I thought you were safe!" Lisa shouted, eyes darting nervously between Victor and David. "This changes everything!" And then a flash of movement caught Eleanor's attention. A young girl, no older than 12, pushed through the crowd, eyes wide, fear written all over her face. "Mom!" she cried, calling out to Eleanor. It was as if the air drained from the universe. Eleanor's heart dropped again, harder this time. Who are you?" She felt lightheaded, confusion swirling through her. "Your daughter," the girl said, voice small yet powerful. "You left us, and it's time to come home." The breath left Eleanor's lungs. Her daughter? But how could this be? How had she not known? "Eleanor, it's time to choose," David said, stepping closer, urgency in his voice. Eleanor's mind raced. Every secret, every lie, all laid bare in a heartbeat. Was this a nightmare? She stood there, frozen, every instinct screaming to run, to hide, to escape from the truth that threatened to consume her. What had she been a part of? What her family was tangled in? Everything she thought she knew shattered in an instant, leaving only fragments of betrayal. Eleanor swallowed hard, looking from David to Lisa, from Victor to her daughter. The fires of chaos flared around them, but the real danger loomed closer. The truth. "No," she said weakly, shaking her head. But deep inside, a question lingered. If this was the truth, what else was waiting to be uncovered? And as the flames danced, swallowing the past, Eleanor knew this was just the beginning. Eleanor's heart raced in her chest. The truth hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. David's presence felt surreal, like a ghost haunting her every step. Lisa stood nearby, her face a mask of determination, while Jacob stared at them, confusion etched deep into his features. "What do you mean, my daughter?" Eleanor's voice trembled as she looked at the girl, so familiar, yet entirely foreign. How can this be? The girl's wide eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Mom, there's no time. They'll come for you. They want the files." "Files? What files?" Eleanor's chest tightened with dread. Another explosion rocked the ground. The smoke swirled more fiercely, and sirens wailed closer. But it felt distant compared to the storm brewing between them. Before anyone could respond, Victor broke into a chilling grin, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You really don't know, do you?" he said, eyes dancing with malice. "You've willingly walked into a war you can't even understand." Jacob's eyes flickered with anger. "What? War? What have you gotten us into?" Eleanor's breath caught. A war? The pieces were shifting around her, each moment unraveling in a way she never thought possible. Before they could process the weight of Victor's words, another figure emerged from the smoke. A man dressed in black, tall and imposing, with a hard glare that sliced right through the chaos. Her heart stopped as recognition washed over her. It was Mark, her estranged husband. "Mark?" Eleanor breathed. "You're alive?" The words slipped from her lips, thick with disbelief. His lips curled into a shadow of a smile, though there was no warmth behind it. "Eleanor, it's time to stop hiding. You know why I'm here." "What is going on?" Eleanor shook her head, desperation clawing at her. "What do you know?" He stepped closer, the air thickening with tension. "You're part of something much larger than you realize. Your whole life has been a lie." "Stop!" Jacob shouted, his face pale. "I can't take this anymore." But before they could argue further, the ground trembled violently. Mark staggered back as another explosion erupted nearby, sending debris flying through the air. Eleanor threw her arms up in a futile attempt to shield herself and the children. And then everything went dark. When the smoke cleared, Eleanor found herself on the ground, her head spinning. She blinked against the light, wiping the ashes from her eyes. Around her lay confusion, shouting figures, disoriented by the chaos. But one thing stood out vividly. The girl was gone. "Where's my daughter?" Eleanor screamed, panic spiking through her veins. Mark's expression twisted into a grimace. "They took her. We have to move, now." "No, you can't just—" But before she could finish, Jacob grabbed her arm, pulling her away from the rubble. "Mom, we need to run!" As they stumbled through the smoke, Eleanor's mind raced. Who was behind this? Why use her family like pawns in a game they didn't even understand? A new fear gripped her. What if they were all expendable to someone? Mark looked over his shoulder, his face ashen. "You need to tell me where the files are, Eleanor. It's not just your life at stake anymore." "Files?" Eleanor's mind spun. "What are you talking about?" But just as the words left her lips, a low rumble echoed throughout the street, a sound filled with finality. Siren lights flashed, and a harsh voice boomed from a loudspeaker. This is the police. We have the area surrounded. Surrender now. Eleanor's breath came out in ragged gasps. The weight of everything crashed down on her. What had her simple life become? Who was truly in control? As the sirens grew louder, she felt a terrifying shift within her. Could she trust Mark? Or was he a part of this nightmare? She turned to David, whose presence felt simultaneously comforting and dangerous. He looked back at her, urgency flooding his features. It's time to decide, Eleanor. The truth isn't just out there, it's in here. He pointed to his chest, a wild gleam in his eye. Before she could reply, someone burst from the shadows. A figure cloaked in darkness, mask covering their face. They rushed forward, a flash of silver glinting in their hand. Eleanor's heart stopped. What was about to happen next? Would anyone emerge unscathed from this twisted web of lies? The chaos swirled, uncertainty thickening around her like a fog. The last of her comfort was gone. And in that moment, she realized everything she thought she knew was about to be flipped upside down. Would she ever find her daughter? Would any of them escape this hell? Eleanor's chest tightened. David's eyes flashed with urgency, and the air thickened with dread. The figure cloaked in darkness edged closer, silver glinting in their hand, and time seemed to stretch. Jacob's breath hitched. "Mom!" he yelled, pulling her back. But Eleanor stepped forward. She needed to know what was happening. "Who are you?" she demanded, voice trembling yet strong, every part of her craving answers. But the figure only smirked, stepping closer, the tension in the air crackling. "Your worst nightmare," they shot back. And just like that, the fading sounds around them fell quiet. "Run!" Mark shouted. His voice shattered the silence, and he lunged toward the dark figure. Eleanor's body reacted on instinct. She felt the urge to protect her son, to save the little girl she'd just learned about, to stand her ground. But before Mark could even reach them, the figure flicked their wrist. A blinding flash erupted, almost like magic, followed by a powerful gust of wind that forced everyone back. Eleanor shielded her eyes, stumbling as if caught in a storm. The world tilted, swirling with color and sound. When the brightness faded, Eleanor stood at the edge of something altogether different. A room, dark and heavy, with walls covered in metallic panels. Flickering lights pulsing like a heartbeat. Shadows loomed, whispering of mixtures of fear and secrets. The cloaked figure grinned, now close enough to see the chiseled features under the mask. A flash of recognition slashed through Eleanor's mind. "You?" she gasped. "It can't be." The figure pulled the mask down, revealing a face she had not seen in years, one that twisted everything she thought she knew. "Surprise, Eleanor. Miss me?" The world fell away. It was her sister Lisa, but not the Lisa she remembered. This was a Lisa wrapped in chaos, her eyes trapped in darkness. "What have you done?" Eleanor choked out, the truth clawing its way into the light. Lisa laughed, a sound chilling and empty. "You think you know me? You never did." Jacob's voice broke through, sharp with confusion. "Wait, what's going on?" But there was no time for explanations. As the sirens blared outside, flooding the shadows with urgency, Eleanor felt something shift wildly within her. The daughter she'd never known still hung somewhere in this tangled web. The little girl she had seen moments ago was caught in this madness. "Where's the girl?" she cried, feeling raw and desperate. "What have you done to her?" Lisa looked genuinely incredulous, a glimmer of something dark crossing her features. "She's part of it, Eleanor. She's not who you think she is." The walls reverberated with tension. "What do you mean?" Eleanor struggled to grasp the implications, feeling the air thicken with secrets she had never wanted to confront. But before she could ponder it further, a door burst open at the far end of the room, revealing a group dressed in tactical gear, eyes sharp and restless, law enforcement moving quickly but cautiously. "Police! Everyone on the ground!" Eleanor's heart plummeted. Mark and Jacob were frozen, shadows caught in the sudden light. "Get down!" Mark shouted, pushing Jacob out of sight, as chaos erupted once more. Eleanor's mind spun. Would they arrest them all? Would Lisa vanish again, bundled into the dark narrative she had crafted? "Eleanor!" David's voice pierced through the chaos. "The files! We need to get out of here before they take you." "What files?" she yelled, panic clawing at her heart. But Lisa raised her hand, a small device glinting between her fingers. "Here's the twist, Eleanor." Lisa's voice dripped with sarcasm. "You were always the plan." In that instant, Eleanor's world shattered. What did Lisa mean? A truth darker than she could imagine lurked beneath the surface of her. Unanswered questions. And as the officers flooded in, confusion erupted. David surged forward, pushing past an officer, eyes wild. "You can't take her. She's not what you think." Eleanor blinked, swept up in a whirlwind of chaos. She felt the world spin again, every piece of her unraveling. Who was she really? And then, just as darkness threatened to pull her under, a high-pitched voice echoed through the room. "Mommy, please don't leave me." Eleanor's heart broke. The grasp of truth tightened around her, and she realized everything she thought was buried was just beginning to surface. Would she ever find peace in the storm, or would the truth shatter them all? Eleanor's heart raced, a primal fear tightening around her. David's eyes pleaded. As he stepped closer, his voice urgent. "We need to move." The tactical squad streamed in, orders clashing with the chaos around them. She could feel the heat of their presence, the pressure of danger suffocating. And then a child's cry sliced through the tension. "Mommy, please don't leave me." It was like a knife twisting in her gut. The little girl, her daughter, the child whose existence obliterated everything she thought she knew, was in their grasp. "Where is she?" Eleanor shouted, panic coursing through her veins. "She's—" Lisa started. But before she could finish, a blast of air knocked everyone back. Eleanor stumbled, her world spinning. When the dust settled, the room was empty. No Lisa, no police, no explosions. Just Eleanor, Jacob, and David, standing at the edge of a vast, sterile hallway leading into utter darkness. Someone whispered her name. Eleanor. The voice felt hauntingly familiar. A chill skittered down her spine. Her heart dropped. No, it can't be. She turned slowly, dread pooling in her stomach. Standing before her was a figure she thought lost forever. Henry. Her first love. The one who vanished years ago, leaving nothing but questions. He wore a knowing grin, but his eyes held secrets that made her shudder. "You had to know," he said, stepping closer as shadows danced around him. "You're more than you realize." "More?" she echoed, grappling for clarity. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, The ground trembled beneath her. Eleanor's legs felt weak, her mind racing. The walls began to shake. "What is going on?" she murmured. But as confusion gripped her, Henry's expression shifted. It morphed into one of anger. "Everything you thought you knew, it's all a lie." "Everything?" Jacob asked, eyes darting between them. "What are you talking about?" And just like that, Eleanor's world crashed down again. Connections she thought were unbreakable began to unravel, each thread spun by secrets, lies, and betrayals. "Henry, you're dead," she whispered, the weight of disbelief heavy in her throat. He chuckled, but it was a hollow laugh, devoid of warmth. "I had to disappear to keep you safe, Eleanor. Your family is wrapped in darkness you don't even understand." Before she could respond, the wall next to her exploded with a thunderous crack, showering them with debris. Another explosion nearby, the air filled with smoke, thick and choking. Panic surged, an electric current running through the group as they scrambled to escape. "Jacob!" she shouted. But as she turned, a blinding light flickered from around the corner. Figures approached slowly, their features obscured. A voice rang out from the shadows, smooth and cold. "Eleanor, you have something that belongs to us." The realization hit her like a punch. The files. "What have you done?" Eleanor's voice cracked as fear spiraled within her. Then it happened. A deafening roar erupted, and the ground beneath her cracked wider. Eleanor fell, her world spinning, grasping at straws of bewilderment. She felt herself slip. In a weightless moment, the memories flooded back, faces twisted with malice, secrets buried beneath years of guilt and shame. Who could she trust? What was real? Just as the abyss loomed beneath her, a hand reached down. "Take my hand, Eleanor." She looked up. Henry, his expression soft, but it flickered, a shadow crossing his eyes. "You can still save your daughter." "What? My daughter?" she cried, the tumultuous wave of emotions crashing over her. Was there still a way out? Could she save them all? And as Eleanor's hand brushed his, the darkness enveloped her, swallowing her whole. In that moment, she felt the threads of her life snap, the truth torn wide open. Everything she thought she knew was up for grabs. Would she soar into the light or drown in the dark? In the face of the rising chaos, the choices ahead loomed like a storm. Dangerous, unpredictable, and utterly real. Eleanor felt herself teetering on the edge of reality, the dark void threatening to swallow her whole. As she clutched Henry's hand, an unearthly heat radiated from the chaos around them, vibrating with urgency. "Stay with me, Eleanor," he urged, his voice steady despite the mayhem. "You have to choose." Suddenly, from behind them, the doorway erupted with armed figures, faces obscured by masks. The weight of the world felt pinned on her as she fought against the pull of the darkness, her heart racing. "Lies and deception won't protect you, Eleanor," Lisa's voice rang out, filled with a mixture of authority and desperation. "You have the power to change everything." The ground quaked beneath them, and a shattering explosion echoed through the hall. Dust and debris filled the air, obscuring their vision. Eleanor's chest tightened. This was not just about her anymore. This was about saving her daughter, the child she never knew she had. In an instant, Jacob lunged toward her, eyes wide with fear. "Mom, we have to go, now!" His voice broke, a raw plea that scraped against her heart. Not without her! Eleanor's voice broke through the chaos, filled with a fierce resolve she didn't know she had. She pulled Jacob behind her as she turned back toward Henry, determination igniting a fire within her. "Where is she?" Eleanor shouted, trying to pierce through the confusion swirling in the air. But before Henry could respond, shock rippled through the room like a slithering serpent. Off in the distance, a cry erupted, innocent and terrified. "Mommy!" Eleanor's heart leaped as she recognized the voice. She gritted her teeth, grounding herself with every ounce of willpower. "We're coming!" she shouted, rushing forward blindly. The tactical squad moved fast. The ground thudded with the weight of their boots. They surged toward Eleanor with orders, but she didn't care. Nothing mattered except that little girl, that precious child caught in the chaos of her twisted family. Just then, the sound of a gunshot rang out, loud and sharp like glass breaking. The cop's warning became a blur. Her vision narrowed, instinct took the reins. She felt panic surging, but as she sprinted ahead, a moment of clarity washed over her. All at once, Lisa stepped between Eleanor and the advancing officers, a determined look etched across her face. "It's time," she said, holding back the training that had shaped her life. "For everything." In that split second, a realization knocked the breath from Eleanor's lungs. Lisa was not her enemy. She was woven into this chaos, tangled in a network of lies that bound their family. "What do we do?" Jacob called out, dragging Eleanor back to reality. "It's simple," Lisa said, brushing dust from her face, unfurling the secret she held like a precious gem. "We bring the truth to light." And with that, Eleanor felt an overwhelming surge of power. "Then let's do it, together." With newfound resolve, Eleanor moved forward, calling out her daughter's name. The echoes of uncertainty began to fade, replaced by hope. They were standing together, family, and in that moment, she felt the veil of darkness lifting. With the figures closing in and chaos swirling about them, Eleanor's heart swelled. She turned to her family, all their fates entwined in this final stand. The officers raised their weapons, but before they could react, Eleanor shouted, "We're not the enemy!" Every heartbeat reverberated with sincerity, and the poised aggression began to waver. She locked eyes with the lead officer, desperation crashing like waves. "Please, help us." Time hung suspended as her words echoed. The truth hung in the air like a fragile crystal, ready to shatter or shimmer. And in that breath of silence, hope surged. The officers lowered their weapons, a hesitant understanding dawning. Their camaraderie echoed back through the chaos as voices merged into supportive cheers. In that moment, as a new dawn broke through the dust, Eleanor felt a connection strong enough to bridge any darkness in their past. It was time to retake her story. Together they charged forward, mother, son, the ghost of love left behind, and the hope of a future unrestrained. As the dust settled, and with the dawn illuminating their path ahead, Eleanor had finally embraced the intricate pain of her family, turning it into a bond that could overcome anything. She turned back to her family, the strength within, weaving ties that had been frayed by secrets and loss. Everything would be all right. Now is the moment to act. You have to subscribe right now. Don't miss out on the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button right now. It truly helps us with the algorithm. I want to hear from you. Flood that comment section with your thoughts and theories about this incredible ending. Let's unravel this adventure together. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. This is the moment to show your support.